choice. The move comes less than 24 hours after USC lost at home Saturday night to Washington 52-42. In the last 6 games, the Trojans defense has allowed 43.6 points per game. In their last 3, they have given up 1,581 yards in total offense. Saturday's loss dropped USC out of the AP Top 25 poll for the first time in Riley's 2 seasons at USC. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580 invites you to join us in celebrating the season of giving by being part of the solution. As we enjoy great food, family, warmth, and well wishes in whatever our festive tradition may be, we share the beauty of the season by reaching out to the less fortunate. Please help us to help others with the KBLA Cover the Houseless Cozy Community Coat and Blanket Drive. All you have to do is drop off new or clean, gently used winter coats and blankets in the KBLA lobby during business hours. Now through December 20th, all of the coats and blankets will be donated to unsheltered individuals and families experiencing houselessness. Simply bring your donation to 4434 Crenshaw Boulevard in Los Angeles, near Vernon Avenue, from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. weekdays. That's 4434 Crenshaw in historic Leimert Park. During the holidays and every day, let's remember, we keep us safe. We keep us warm. We are the safety net. And together, we can cover the unsheltered. Get caught up in the spirit of the season, the spirit of love. Make a difference with your friends at KBLA Talk 1580.
Live from historic Leimert Park in Los Angeles, California, I'm Tavis Smiley, and I'm so glad to see you and me back in stride again. Before we get started with today's show, let me invite you to follow me on Facebook and Instagram at The Real Tavis Smiley and get updates on X, that's formerly Twitter, at Tavis Smiley. By the way, should you miss any part of today's program or want to catch up on previous shows, you can always visit thetavisSmileyShow.com. That's thetavisSmileyShow.com or wherever you get your podcast and listen to us at your leisure. Another great show on tap for you today. In our second hour, our nation's capital, Washington, D.C., was once referred to, colloquially at least, as Chocolate City. In those days, D.C. came to be the nation's murder capital and, for that matter, incarceration capital. So here's my question. Have you been to D.C. lately? D.C. is now a haven for wealthy white folk. So how did that happen? And why is that same reality being replicated in major cities all across America? Do anti-black policy decisions drive mass incarceration, gentrification, and racial inequality? Tanya Golash-Boza's research draws a direct line between redlining, incarceration, and gentrification, and she'll break it down for us today in our In our third hour, a conversation with investigative reporter Jerry Mitchell on reopening unsolved murder cases of the civil rights era. I look forward to that dialogue with Jerry Mitchell in hour 3. You'll be fascinated to learn some new data about a number of these cases that are being reopened because they have they are yet to be solved. We'll talk about that today in our third hour. But we commence today's show talking politics with our regular contributor, and there's a whole lot to talk about. The renowned civil rights lawyer and towering public intellectual, Connie Rice. Connie, how are you today?
Hey, Tavis, I'm armed, alarmed, but not yet panicked.
Armed, alarmed, but not yet panicked. Well, there are a whole lot of folk Whole lot of folk who panicked yesterday, and let me just jump right into what caused the panic. For those of us who are black, who are political animals, who follow this stuff every day, this did cause some panic yesterday. Don't know if you saw this story, but I'm going to spend some time on this with Connie before I move to a litany of other issues, including Donald Trump. He and the judge literally are going at it right now in the courtroom. The judge in New York called for a 15-minute recess and told Trump's lawyer, get your client together. Get him together. Trump and the judge are going at it, yelling at each other in the courtroom. That's what's happening literally as we speak. We are now celebrating the 15th anniversary of the historic election of Barack Hussein Obama 15 years ago. He was elected the first black president of these United States. Israel has decided to literally turn the Hamas terror attack of October 7th into like a mini movie. It's like a 45-minute movie. Very controversial of what happened on October 7th. They believe they need to change the narrative from all the pro-Palestinian protests. So there's literally a short film, if you will. No narration, just footage that's being shown literally today, this week here in LA and Hollywood and in New York in certain places. You got to know somebody to get in to see it. But Israel is really making what some would call a bold, brazen, others think it's a sick decision to just show this footage again as another attempt on their part to sort of change this narrative. A lot to talk about in this hour. Who better than Connie Rice? But I want to start with this. Yesterday, many people awoke to this story, front page New York Times. Trump leads in 5 critical states as voters blast Biden. This is a Siena New York Times poll, and President Biden is trailing 1 year out, trailing Donald J. Trump in 5 of the 6 most important battleground states 1 year before the 2024 elections. Now, that headline got a lot of folks' attention, Connie, but when you scroll down in that article, as you and I did, and you continue to read, and you get to this paragraph, if you're black, you panic. And I quote from the New York Times, "Black voters, long a bulwark for Democrats and for Mr. Biden, are now registering 22% support in these states for Mr. Trump, a level unseen in presidential politics for a Republican in modern times." I'll read again in case you didn't hear me. Black voters are now registering 22% support in these critical battleground states that will decide this election. The black vote is now 22% 1 year out for Donald Trump. A significant part of the reason that number is 22% is that black men continue to drift toward Donald Trump. These numbers are shocking, to use Connie's words. For many, they induced a panic attack yesterday that black people could be at this level in these swing states. Looking at my clock, it'd be unfair to let Connie go and have to cut her off in 20 seconds. So let me with that table now being set, you'll want to hear Connie's response to all of that. I can tell you right now, Connie said repeatedly, I don't know where else she's going, but I can tell you this, somewhere in her commentary is going to be that the Biden administration is in the wrong frame. She said it more than once. The Biden folk are bringing a knife to a gunfight. What her take is on this black number, I am anxious to hear myself. You'll hear it from Connie Rice when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
For all the freedom-loving folk, this is Tavis Smiley.
I feel like freedom. Escalade IQ. This the intro to the all-electric Cadillac perfection like Zoom. And on a full charge, you get 450 miles without the stop haiku. This is what I do. Daddy fat intellect since 92. Linked all the way back, panoramic roof. Come with 24-inch rim standard. Ooh, why? Shawty don't kill him. Cadillac diamond in the back, cold chillin'. And when I'm on attack, on the track is no ceiling. Sky's the limit. You hear me? You hear me? Straight drop, no parachutes. Lay lines like a longitude and latitude. Feel it, beloved, clearly we're hustling. Bustin', truckin'. Cadillac, Cadillac. Cadillac.
For more on the Escalade IQ, visit Cadillac.com.
Available late 2024. GM estimate 450-mile range on a full charge based on development testing and/or analytical projection. Consistent with the CHA 1634 revision 2017 MCT. Range subject to change prior to production. Annual rates may vary based on service factors, including ambiance temperature, terrain, battery age, and condition loading, and how you use and maintain your vehicle.
For all of us, this generation and the next, There is simply no place in our lives for litter. And yet, it's everywhere we look, and unfortunately, it does belong to all of us. So let's come together and create a litter-free, clean California once and for all. Remember to properly dispose of your trash and recycling. Secure truckloads with tarps to keep debris from flying out. Clean out your car when you're at the gas station. Take pride in your community by organizing a cleanup event or join a cleanup event near you. Zero litter is the goal. Join us at cleanca.com. That's cleanca.com. Let's do it together. Brought to you by Caltrans. cleanca.com.
Meet LA's most affordable health plan. This open enrollment season, LA Care Covered is proud to offer the lowest cost health plans in Los Angeles County, featuring zero cost preventive services to help you achieve your wellness goals. Be part of the region's largest HMO network, featuring UCLA Health, Optum, and allied physicians without breaking the bank. We are here to help. Call us at 855-222-4239 for enrollment assistance. That's 855-222-4239. LA Care Covered. Your wellness, our mission.
Los Angeles, Black men are dying from preventable health causes and diseases, but you can be part of the solution. Join us Saturday, November 11th at the Michelle and Barack Obama Sports Complex next to Dorsey High for the African American Male Wellness 5K Walk and Run. Walk for your brother, walk for your father, walk for your son, walk for your uncle, walk for yourself. This is a free, family-friendly event for the entire community. We'll have free health screenings, vendors, kids' activities, and more. We'll see you at 8 a.m.
Smart talk for curious people just like you. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley and Connie Rice just getting started in this first hour today. So, Connie, there you have it. Biden is slipping with black voters. The Hispanic number I didn't even get into. It ain't much better. All right, Connie, microphone's all yours.
I think you made the point, Tavis, which is that this is mostly men, because black women are too smart to do this. we know that, okay? So let's just focus on you raised the right issue, which is that it's mainly men who like the attitude. And I understand it. They like the middle finger attitude. They like the fact that Trump thrashes against authority and breaks laws and, has supermodels on his arm and, all that macho crap. And I understand that, and that's what the attraction is. It's the attitude. It's very similar to what a lot of white men find attractive. So it's a brainstem reaction in a lot of ways. And for those who are more thoughtful about it, it may be that they actually agree that, end the democracy, try autocracy, who knows. Mm-hmm. But I think there, even though I had a gin and tonic while I was reading this poll, I think that what it says, when you look at voters saying they trust Trump more than Biden on national security, that's your clue. All right. Mm-hmm. that number one, this is a reaction of voters who are blaming Biden, not Biden the man, but Biden the symbol of everything that's gone wrong. The world's going topsy-turvy. The price of eggs is too high. They can't get a mortgage, and the price of gasoline. And they're saying that they trust Trump, who's never been in a grocery store, wouldn't know how to buy a dozen eggs. Mm-hmm. They trust him more on the economy. Now, what you could trust Trump to do is lie about the economy and tell you that you're imagining inflation not being beat. So, you take a look at this poll, and I think that voters are angry and they're lashing out because the world doesn't make any sense anymore. And our institutions have failed for so many generations, both Democratic and Republican regimes, that you're having a big swath of the country perhaps saying, you know what, this constitutional order isn't working. That's the third of the country that's going MAGA. Outside of that, you have voters who are angry about what they see, even though things sort of statistically, factually, analytically, the way you and I kind of go through the world. Mm-hmm. For those of us who know inflation is being tamed, African Americans have never had more income than in the under the Biden administration. On and on, unemployment has gone down, inflation is getting tamed. None of that matters because people don't feel it yet. And for them to have gone out on Bidenomics, it makes the Democrats look more clueless than they actually are, even though they are fairly clueless. So I would say a couple of things. Here are the things that did worry me about this poll. is that I think that some of the fire hose of lies is working.
Mm-hmm.
It's baking in stupid stuff like Biden is addled, is too old and confused. No, that's because they've taken clips and put them in a kind of Saturday Night Live spiel, and they play it over and over again. But Trump's nonsense doesn't even get covered. Trump's given speeches where he said 3 times, when I ran against Obama. He never ran against Obama. He ran against Hillary Clinton. He doesn't even know who his opponent was. He said twice, we're gonna be triggering World War II. He doesn't understand World War II was fought in the last century. You want to talk about too old and addled? Biden is putting together an alliance to fight autocracy around the world and so forth. And Trump can't even figure out who's Turkey and who's Hungary. So, I'm saying that the misperception is reality, and the fire hose of lies is creating a false reality that the Dems are not countering, that media confirms. Every time they normalize crazy MAGA people as normal, when they put up Scalise described himself as David Duke without the hood.
Mm-hmm.
He was in line for speaker. That was never, you didn't hear that in the coverage of him. They covered him like he's a normal politician. So I think that all of these factors are creating a misperception in reality that the Dems aren't fighting. They're not fighting the cultural war. They're not fighting the misperception war. They're not even understanding that they're losing their base. And that's what this poll says, is you raised. They're not just losing black men and Latino men. They're losing the youth vote. And the youth vote was the key to that election. It was the key to the midterms along with the women's vote. When women were told you don't get to control your body, Jim Jordan gets to tell your gynecologist what you and he can do. But with all that you've got, and this poll doesn't even account for the huge reaction of Arab and Muslim voters who are furious about the one-sided strategy in the Middle East. That doesn't even count. And in Michigan, one thing this poll tells us is that if he loses Michigan, if the Democrats lose Michigan, they can't win.
Mm-hmm.
And that Arab-Muslim vote in Ann Arbor, and that's the second biggest population of Arab Americans and Muslim Americans in the country. If he loses those votes, that's his margin of victory in Michigan. So I think a couple of things just to kind of wrap this. I'm not panicking. I'm going to watch the elections this week because Democrats do badly in polls, but they seem to be winning elections.
Right.
Midterm, special election after special election. Let's see what happens with the elections this week. And 2 things to note. When voters are asked if Trump is convicted and sentenced before the election, what will you do? Trump's support drops 6 points, and that puts Biden, puts all of the battleground states back into Biden's column. And the second thing is that very interestingly, when Dems are asked, why are you so down on Biden? They say, well, we're criticizing Biden, but don't try and threaten us with Trump. Trump isn't going to be the nominee. They don't believe Trump is going to be the nominee. So I think when the choice becomes clear, if the Democrats make the stakes clear, they're not explaining the stakes. They're not explaining. Stop trying to convince people what you've done is great, and get into their reality and meet them where their reality is. They need to get out of that white paper Washington, D.C. nonsense and understand you're in a culture war, you're in a war for democracy, and you've got to tell voters, look, we didn't get everything done, and for African Americans, we apologize for failing you. But here's the real choice, and here's what we're going to work on. If we can get the House back, here's what we can pass. And give people a reason to come back and say, we know you don't like us, but you sure don't want Mr. Insurrection in charge.
Yep. Didn't want to interrupt. Wanted you to get a chance to lay it out, and you have. So now let me interrogate it in a few different ways. Number one, for those who are, in fact, panicked by this poll that Trump is leading Biden in all these key battleground states, and if the election were held today, Trump would have 300 in Electoral College votes, far surpassing the 270 needed to be elected president. So Biden would go down in flames today if the election were held today. Thankfully, it's not. There's a year to go, and Connie just laid out how she sees them getting in the right frame. I thought about Bill Clinton when Connie was talking. Clinton was right about a lot of things and wrong about a lot of things. But he's right about this. Every election is about the future. That's a Bill Clinton line. Every election is about the future, never about the past. You hear Connie's point. Stop telling folk what you've done for them and how great what you've done for them is. Get in their frame, get in their situation, get into their world, and tell them how you're going to help them in the future, even if you failed on certain things you promised when you ran the last time around. So I take Connie's point. She's right. Having said that, Connie, there was all this talk about Joe Biden taking a shellacking in the midterms, and that red wave that they predicted did not happen. So for those who are panicked, when they predicted this last time, Connie, it didn't actually happen.
Didn't happen for two reasons. Women were angry about being told you don't get to control your body. Mm-hmm. It ended a woman's right to choose, the Supreme Court. And number two, the youth vote.
Right.
Young people, and young people of color in particular, made the difference in the midterms, and they stopped the red wave.
Mm-hmm. The other issue I want to raise with you now is third-party candidates. You and I have discussed a number of times our friend Cornel West, who will be a guest on this program in the coming days. Once again, he'll return to our studio for an hour conversation. He and I were just talking about that, locking in the date for that now. But there are two ways to read this in terms of third-party candidates. Let's just talk about Cornel West and Bobby Kennedy. If they were to pull anything away from Joe Biden and these numbers that we're talking about now were to hold, clearly Biden would lose. He wouldn't just lose because Trump is leading him in these key battleground states. He'd further lose because whatever West and Kennedy, many would argue, would pull, I don't buy that argument, but they would pull away from him. The other way to read, that's one way to read it, and that's the way the Biden folk are reading it, why they want to crush these third-party candidates. The other way to read it is that Biden's policies are not progressive enough. And that is why Cornel West or Bobby Kennedy could pull votes, because the president's agenda isn't progressive enough, to your point, because he's in the wrong frame. And West and Kennedy would argue that they are in the right frame, so they aren't pulling votes away from him. They would argue this is precisely what we're telling you. The brother, I can hear Cornel now, the brother is in trouble with Donald Trump because he's not in the right frame, his policies aren't progressive enough, et cetera, et cetera. So there are two ways to read that. Which one is right, which one is wrong, or both wrong?
Let me put it this way. I guess maybe I have a different take on the shift in frames.
Okay.
You know, Doc is saying that the frame needs to be shifted more left. I say that the country's spectrum has been pushed so far right that in this particular moment in time, we can't even get to progressive stuff. Mm-hmm. You know, I mean, Bernie Sanders sings in the soul of my, in the key of my soul, right?
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Well, I'm a democratic socialist.
Mm-hmm.
I think Norway and Sweden are the way you should organize society. That your government should be serving upward mobility, not making plutocrats, and not crushing people so low that we have homeless encampments.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I'm with Bernie Sanders and Doc. Realistically, the United States has allowed its political pendulum to be pushed so far right that we have a near Klansman as a nominee for speaker. Mm-hmm. And we have a kinder, gentler white nationalist and Christian supremacist in the speaker's office right now. So we're in a Lester Maddox frame right now. We're in a Strom Thurmond frame. You know, we're not in a Barack Obama frame. And if we were starting with the Barack Obama frame, I could see us pushing to the left.
Right.
But right now, I think that given how extreme and how normalized we've made extremist, white nationalist, violent insurrectionist political speech and action, with all of the vote suppression, trying to knock African Americans out of the electoral system, trying to make sure women don't vote, LGBTQ folks don't vote, all of that is at stake. And I guess what I'm saying is when you're in a frame of turmoil, where the old rules don't apply, and where the whole democracy is at stake, that's an existential frame. And anything that injects uncertainty, from third-party candidates to this war in the Middle East, this war in the Middle East could end up making Trump the next president if it isn't handled.
Well, to your earlier point, Michigan, I know it well. So many Arab Americans live in that state, in Ann Arbor, in Detroit, in that state. They're that's home for them. And one could argue, if you listen to the rhetoric, one could argue that Joe Biden has already lost Michigan. Why do I say that? He loses Michigan, it's over. One could argue he's already lost Michigan, in part because these pro-Palestinians have made it clear under no conditions, given what's happened already, will they ever vote for Joe Biden again? They've already made that clear. So I can't imagine him doing a 180 on the Israel-Palestine thing. He's not going to do that. And this nonsense last week of we're going to ask Israel to pause the war every now and again so we can get hostages out and aid in, then they go back to bombing again. I mean, that was just an absurd statement as far as I'm concerned. I see what their end game is, but it's just absurd when you look at it, even in a prima facie sort of way. So one could argue that he's already lost in Michigan if these persons are serious when they say we will never, under any circumstances, ever vote for Joe Biden. I digress on that point. Let me push though to the other issue you raised about his age. This poll really goes drills down into this, and I know he's tired of hearing it. And other folk are tired of hearing it. Those Biden supporters are tired of hearing it because it reminds me again of the Jesse Jackson line. I'd rather have Roosevelt in a wheelchair than Reagan on a horse. That's classic Jesse Jackson. Give me Roosevelt in a wheelchair than Reagan on a horse. And yet, somebody said this the other day, and I think they're right. It's not, Connie, just that Joe Biden is old. We're not engaging in ageism. That's not the point. He's not just old. He looks frail. He moves frail. He talks frail. So it's not even just his memory. It's that when you look at him, there's nothing about looking at him that inspires anything, and there's nothing he can do about that, Connie.
And there's nothing they can do about it, but they aren't dealing with it in the right way.
Right.
Okay, they're not making it less toxic. He may not look vigorous, but his thinking and his leadership on the global stage is very, very vigorous. That 1.5 hour State of the Union debate that he had with screaming Republicans in the audience, he was brilliant on that. That was very clear. There was no script there. So when, if he's fairly portrayed, he's, on the stuff that's important, he's making he's making strategic decisions that are based in some kind of analysis. He's not senile. He's not. So all of that is nonsense. And Trump, on the other hand, if you listen to his speeches, I don't know where my theory is, especially if you talk about the subgroups of African Americans, Muslim Americans, Arab Americans. I think that, for example, in Michigan, he can't win Michigan if he because that vote in Ann Arbor and from Arab Americans and Muslims, that was his victory margin. If he loses that, but I also know I've been with Muslim American and Arab American groups. I've been with Jewish American groups. I've been with Israeli groups the last 2 weeks. And it's the kind of thing where people are so angry at this point for very good reasons on both sides that I'm thinking that as the outrage subsides, and if there's a more sensible approach to this, to the madness that we see, that when Arab and Muslim Americans see that Trump has already promised to reinstitute the Muslim ban, you might get some of those votes back. And the Democrats can make up with female votes. So I think your point is absolutely right. I think those votes are lost right now. They may not vote at all. But that means they got to make up with other groups. But that doesn't mean you leave those groups feeling like they've been betrayed. The Jewish Americans feel they've been betrayed. Israelis feel they've been betrayed. The Palestinians, Arab America, everybody is just a cluster betrayal. And we got to get strategic and very hard-eyed about how to actually solve the problem rather than going through the outrage cycle. There's
a lot more in this poll that Connie and I could unpack if I had the time, but I want to push when we come forward to covering a few other things. He just mentioned Israel and Hamas. I said at the top of this show a half hour ago that they've somebody has made a short film, if you will, and they're going to be showing it in Hollywood and New York this week. And the film is no narration. It's just the footage of what happened when Hamas engaged this surprise attack on Israel on October 7th. We'll get Connie's temperature on that. We are celebrating the 15th anniversary of Obama's historic election. She mentioned Obama earlier. And Trump is off the rails in this courtroom today. A lot more to talk about with Connie Rice when we come forward. You are listening to Tavis Smiley.
From Leimert Park with love, this is Tavis Smiley.
What's up, party people? It's your favorite MC's favorite rapper, MC Light here. And we're celebrating 50 years of hip-hop, authentically powered by Cadillac. And we're going to take it way back to where it started. It was only fitting that hip-hop began with teenagers at a back-to-school jam in the rec room of a South Bronx apartment complex by an 18-year-old brother. By the way, I'm also sure he had a Cadillac parked outside. He noticed the energy on the dance floor when he switched between two turntables, extending the beats, repeating the breaks, and never losing the rhythms. And that was the birth of hip-hop. And from that moment, it took off.
For more on how Cadillac is celebrating hip-hop's 50th, visit Cadillac.com/audacity.
Thank you for joining us. I'm Mike Moore. Here's the latest from the Black Information Network. New York Congressman George Santos, indicted on 23 criminal charges, isn't ruling out a plea deal. The truth-challenged GOP lawmaker is charged with lying on financial disclosure forms, misleading donors, using their credit cards without permission, and fraudulently collecting COVID unemployment benefits. Santos said he's not admitting anything but hasn't ruled out a plea deal if it should come his way. It hasn't so far. In California, Oakland is renaming a street in honor of African-American rapper Tupac Shakur. A stretch of roadway is now called Tupac Shakur Way. His early life was spent in Marin County, where his parents were involved in the Black Panther movement. The renaming comes 27 years after he was gunned down in Las Vegas, Nevada. And that's the latest. I'm Mike Moore from your 24/7 news source, the Black Information Network, and BINnews.com.
Need an accident attorney by your side? All you got to do is call the accident guys.
Injured in a car accident or at work? Call the accident guys to speak with a real expert attorney for a free consultation.
Hi, I'm Kyle at Blindster.com. Since 2010, Blindster has sold millions of custom blinds, shades, and shutters to satisfied customers across the country with 20,000 five-star reviews and an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau. Custom blinds at low prices and free shipping. Blindster.com.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Rams failed to get into the end zone at Green Bay yesterday. They lose by 17. The Rams fall to 3-6. It's a Monday night game tonight for the Chargers. They're in New York to take on the Jets. The Chargers are trying to get to 500 at 4-4. USC fired defensive coordinator Alex Grinch, a move USC Nation had been calling for since last season. USC head coach Lincoln Riley had no choice. The move comes less than 24 hours after USC lost at home Saturday night to Washington 52-42. In the last 6 games, the Trojans defense has allowed 43.6 points per game. In their last 3, they have given up 1,581 yards in total offense. Saturday's loss dropped USC out of the AP Top 25 poll for the first time in Riley's 2 seasons at USC. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
Race, culture wars, political turf battles, criminal justice and injustice, the courts. These are the conversations you won't hear elsewhere. My guests are leading journalists, celebrities, and sports figures, elected leaders, and influencers. They aren't afraid to get into it and say the quiet part out loud. With Ariva Martin in real time, your commute just became the most engaging part of your day. Tune in weekdays from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. or find us on YouTube. Ariva Martin in real time, when you want it straight, no chaser.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black. This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
November is National Runaway Prevention and Homeless Youth Awareness Month, and the Sanctuary of Hope is shining a light on the situations that cause youth to run away or face a housing crisis. In LA County, nearly 3,000 youth are homeless on the streets each night. All month long, the Sanctuary of Hope will lead activities throughout LA County to inform and mobilize calls for action, and you can help. For more info, go to www.thesoh.org. That's www.thesoh.org. Do you have both Medi-Cal and Medicare? The new LA Care health plan called LA Care Medicare Plus, HMO DSNP, can help you get the most out of your health plan for $0 premium. LA Care is here to provide Angelinos with access to quality health care at an affordable cost. For $0 premium, you can get full benefits from vision coverage and in-home support services to prescription drug coverage, plus more. Call 855-688-1479. 855-688-1479.
In Big Tobacco's Fantasyland, children are the future. Here, tobacco companies are committed to higher education, offering scholarships to students who submit essays about the benefits of vaping. The tobacco industry even sponsors summer camps for kids. Don't worry, the tobacco-sponsored programs have been linked to leaving your kids more interested in smoking. In Big Tobacco's Fantasyland, the world's deadliest industry is your child's friend.
See reality at undo.org.
Happy holidays, foodies! Les Affairs is your local Black-owned event planning and catering service you can trust to provide a Thanksgiving free of the holiday scaries. Find us at lesaffairsevents.com. No grocery shopping in this haunting economy, laboring over a burning stove or battling the boogeyman, the dishes. Spooky season's over. Let Les Affairs cater your feast. Order from our selection of meats and sides delivered Thanksgiving Eve. Next day, heat, eat, and enjoy. Learn more at lesaffairsevents.com or Instagram at lesaffairsevents, LESAFFAIRESEVENTS. Bon appetit!
Let's get back to more of Tavis Smiley right now.
Our guest in this hour is Connie Rice, and I'm delighted to have her, as I always am, in dialogue about some trending political issues. In case you've just tuned in, you missed a spirited conversation that Connie and I just had about this poll that came out yesterday that shows that Biden is losing to Donald Trump in 5 or 6 of the key battleground states 1 year out. And that were the election held today, Trump would have 300 electoral college votes, giving Joe Biden a shellacking in the sequel that we expect. The poll has a lot of nuances in it. Connie made the point quite accurately that if he is tried and convicted, those numbers shift. We also noted that 22% of black folk in these key battleground states are not supporting Donald Trump. That's scary. We unpacked that as well in case you just tuned in. And before I move on to Israel, Hamas, Donald Trump, and Barack Obama, Connie, in this last half hour, let me just come back one more time to a comment you made earlier about the poll, that if, in fact, Donald Trump is tried and convicted, and running for president as a felon, if you will, it shifts the numbers in these polls, and Joe Biden could actually pull this thing out a year from now. Here's my question on that. And I know you're a lawyer and a brilliant lawyer, and I know what you're supposed to say when I ask you this question. But I just want you to be straight, no chaser, and just gut bucket honest with me. If you're a prosecutor in any one of these cases, and you're reading this poll as Connie and I and everybody else is reading this poll, and you know that Donald Trump can lose this election if, in fact, he's tried and convicted before Election Day. Do I need to finish my question, Connie? I think you take my point. What is their mandate?
Get the trial done. Get the trial done and get him sentenced. Okay?
Yeah.
Which is what Jack Smith's doing. And it's not going to happen in Florida with the stolen nuclear secrets documents, classified documents case.
Right.
And it doesn't look like Fonnie Lewis is going to be able to get the stuff up and going by then either in Georgia on the interference with Georgia's election case. So the D.C. case with Judge Chutkan is the case that is on track.
The sister judge. That's the black judge. Yeah, the sister judge. Yeah.
Yeah, we've got 2 black DAs, a black judge.
Mm-hmm.
This is why they ought to oppose affirmative action, because it puts smart black people in charge. I once said, yeah, I'm your argument against affirmative action because you don't want to give me a Harvard degree. You're not going to like it.
Yeah.
But I think, and the prosecutor there is Jack Smith. That case is about Trump's violation of constitutional process. He basically interfered in the certification of the votes and launched that insurrection riot of angry white men on January 6th, 2021. So that's what that case is. And he made it lean, mean, and streamed, okay, so that he put one defendant, Donald J. Trump, Bone Spurs, and put him on and say, you engaged in a conspiracy to interfere with the certification of the election. And that case is simple. It's straightforward. It's one defendant. And the judge is determined, I think the judge was rightly determined because Trump keeps threatening witnesses and staff and the judge and the prosecutor. He's gone, full political violence with his rhetoric and suggestions. So she's like told him, look, I'm putting you under a limited gag order, and this trial is going forward. She set the time for jury questionnaires to go out, and she set the time for when the jury is going to be picked. So she's marching right ahead.
Yep. For those who are curious as to the case that we were talking about earlier that we'll get to again right about now, the one in New York with Letitia James, Attorney General, over his holdings and whether or not he'll lose control of any of his properties. And this is the case where he lied about his net worth and the worth of his company. That's Letitia James, speaking of sisters, in New York State. That's the case underway right now. That case is civil. It is not criminal. So just to be clear, this case underway right now is not one that's going to send him to prison no matter what the outcome is. But let me just go straight inside that courtroom, Connie, in New York, because Trump just is off the rails today. I mean, literally, the judge in the case stopped the trial and told Trump's attorneys, get your client under control, and took a 15-minute recess for them to do that. But he's pushing back against this judge. I've been watching it to the extent I can. It's brutal inside that courtroom, Connie.
Well, Trump doesn't care about the legal process. He's doing a show for the political process. Basically, he's running to stay out of prison because if he wins the election, he can nullify most of these cases. He can't nullify the Georgia case, but he can pull the plug on all of the federal actions. So he's not going to comply with witness rules. He's going to yell at the judge. I can't wait till as soon as I get off this call, I'm going to turn the TV on and see the Trump show. It's just more of the Trump show. So he's going to act up. This judge they made the mistake. His lawyers didn't know they were supposed to select a jury trial. You have to ask for a jury in civil cases, and they didn't ask for one. So they're having to try this case before the judge. And the judge has already said, "I've never seen so much fraud. We don't even need to try that. I've already found this fraud." Now, what the issue is on these other counts, you got to prove these other counts. But we already know it's mass fraud. So, I mean, like we said in the beginning, if you are tied with a 4 times criminally indicted, adjudicated fraudster, adjudicated sexual assaulter who stole nuclear secrets, fomented violent insurrection, and wants to end the Constitution to install a white nationalist autocracy, the Democrats, if you can't run against that, I suggest you put Steve Harvey in charge of this because Steve Harvey would know how to blow all that stuff up, okay?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, the thing that Connie said earlier, as well, in case you weren't tuned in at that time, in this poll, and I'm back to this poll again because it's fascinating on so many levels. If you haven't had a chance to look at it today, just Google it, read it, because there's some fascinating data 1 year out from Election Day. But Connie put her finger on this, and I think this really is the point of how crazy these Trump supporters are, including this increasing number of black men who are supporting Donald Trump, which raises the number to 22%, as I said earlier, of black support in these key battleground states. And Connie just nailed this, and it's important to, I think, underscore once again, that if you think, as many respondents do in this poll, that Donald Trump is better on national security than Joe Biden, then you're completely stuck on stupid. Put down the crack pipe. How could a guy who stole nuclear secrets, had all these boxes, et cetera, how could you believe that guy is better on national security? Connie, I still don't understand how anybody could believe that.
They don't believe it because they're not paying attention to it.
Yeah.
They're just mad at the general state of the world and anything that Biden represents the establishment now. So they're just saying Biden's bad at this, Biden's bad at that. But they don't know any of the facts. They don't particularly care. They're voting their emotions in these polls. I
take it. When we come forward, we'll go straight to a conversation about, it's called Bearing Witness. This is the short film that's been put together about what happened on October 7th when Hamas surprised Israel with this attack, and folk were a pretty savage attack, as you well know. No matter what you think of what's happening right now, this attack on October 7th, pretty savage. No denying that. But they've put together about a 45-minute documentary, and again, no narration. It's called Bearing Witness to the October 7th Massacre. And Israel has had enough of this narrative, as they see it, shifting in a pro-Palestinian sort of way. And so they want to pull the narrative back on their side of the aisle. So they put together this documentary. It's being shown to certain audiences this week in Hollywood and in New York. Who knows if it will go wider? But it's a bold and brazen and a tricky move to be putting out a film showing these beheadings, et cetera, et cetera. I'm not sure that Israel will not regret this, and the comments about their effort to do it are not positive by far. We'll talk about that and close this program today, close this hour of the program. I still got 2 more hours to go. We'll close this hour. Something a little more positive. We'll celebrate the 15th anniversary of Barack Obama being elected the first black president of these United States. You're listening right now to Connie Rice on Tavis Smiley.
Unapologetically progressive. Unapologetically black. You're tapped into Tavis Smiley.
What is dedication?
My biggest fear in the middle of my addiction was that my kids wouldn't have a father. And I started thinking, you know what? This isn't my story. I definitely had to become a better man to be a better father. It's important to me that my kids are empowered and truly believe that if they can think it, they can do it.
That's dedication. Visit fatherhood.gov to hear more. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Joey from Vermont, a farmer trying to get through the winter. Adriana from South Carolina, a single mother living paycheck to paycheck. Liam from Ohio, an injured father struggling to provide for his family. Hi, I'm Shanola Hampton, and I support the Feeding America network of food banks because they help provide over 6 billion meals to people in need each year. Learn more at feedingamerica.org.
At Susan G. Komen, we believe that ending breast cancer needs all of us working together. Because if you've just been diagnosed and don't know where to turn, we've got you. If you can't afford the treatment you need, we've got you. And if you are driven to honor the loved one you've just lost, we have a place for you here. Because of you, we're supporting those who need help today while tirelessly searching for tomorrow's cures. Visit Komen.org and be a part of our Susan G. Komen community today.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Hi, Maisha Cairo here, KBLA, live at Chase Bank on Crenshaw and Vernon for the In This Together tour with female business owners, a day of empowerment, community panels, and best of all, tips on building business from marketing to capital. I was able to speak with Kate Luzio, former banking executive and now owner of Luminary, who partnered with Chase for this tour. She makes it her business to build community for business owners.
Yes, so I was a banker for 20 years before I decided to become an entrepreneur. 7 of those years were actually at JP Morgan Chase. One of the biggest things that I had going into my entrepreneurial journey was a big background in banking.
So what advice are you giving business owners looking for financial backing today?
So Chase brings in so much knowledge and the opportunity to understand what financial tools are out there for business owners to build, grow, and scale their business. A lot of business owners will say, well, I need to get a loan immediately. Well, you wouldn't just lend money to your friend if you didn't know why they needed it. I tell every business owner, you need a business plan, you need financial projections, you need a banker. Because you have to start building a relationship with a banker so that they get comfortable with how you're going to build that business and so that they can eventually support you in different ways.
Makes sense. So visit the Chase Community Center on Crenshaw and Vernon. Meet a banker today. Tell them about your business. I'm Maisha Cairo in the community for KBLA with JP Morgan Chase.
He's rooting for everybody black. More of Tavis Smiley coming your way right now.
All right, Connie Rice, as we sit here for this conversation today, there are some more than 1,400 Israelis who've died in this war between Israel and Hamas. More than 1,400 Israelis dead, most of them killed on October 7th when Hamas started this round of this ongoing war between these two sides. The death toll for Palestinians now passed 10,000. So just over 1,400 Israelis, over 10,000 Palestinians, many of them children, in the 4+ weeks of war. Israel has now cut off North Gaza, and this death toll continues to rise. In response to this narrative sort of shifting in a pro-Palestinian sort of way, at least as they see it, Israel is releasing this film called Bearing Witness to the October 7th massacre because they're concerned about the skepticism that people have about the savagery of these attacks that happened on October 7th. As a political strategy, what do you make of this decision?
I think it's the wrong strategy and the wrong response, just as I think the mass invasion is the wrong response. As I said before, I've been with Jewish and Israeli groups and Muslim and Arab American groups for the last 2 weeks, and I've never seen these sets of communities this profoundly outraged on both sides, and for good reason. 1,400 Israelis slaughtered. I don't care. You can't celebrate killing infants. I don't care whose infants they are. You just can't celebrate that. And when Jewish American, you've got this huge explosion of anti-Semitism. 1,400 Israelis is 50,000 Americans, and then and it is. I'm equally outraged that for Palestinians who have lost their original homelands, been sort of occupied and contained and blockaded for decades now. In this particular iteration of this fight, 10,000 Palestinians, about 45-50% of them children. That's 1.4 million Americans, the equivalent of 1.4 million Americans. So there's profound, justifiable outrage from both communities. But you can't, here's the problem. Extreme, shock and awe, savage attacks are insurgency 101. You attack the dominant power with a ferocious brutality that provokes it into doing something big and dumb. It's what happened after 9/11. Big and dumb is invading Iraq. Big and dumb is invading Afghanistan with battalions and everything we had in our military. So the Israelis have fallen for the same bait. And the only way, the problem is, they're saying we have no choice. But that's the fog of outrage addling your analysis, because there are generals in the Israeli army and there are admirals and generals and all kinds of military leaders in the United States that say you can't bomb your way or invade your way out of an ideology. The only way to pull the plug on murderous terrorist attacks is to do sustained, targeted attacks of identified terrorists, number one. 2, stop the money that supports them. And 3, you have got to do justice. You've got to provide security and prosperity in a 2-state solution. And that is the only way. You cannot, so the bombing is going to continue, and they're not even going to, Israelis are not going to be able to make themselves, get rid of Hamas, make themselves secure. In fact, they're probably going to strengthen Hamas, and they're triggering a response that is thoughtless, because you don't celebrate the killing of Israelis and you don't ignore the rise of anti-Semitism. There's a way to object to Israeli policy without being anti-Semitic, and that's what we have to focus on, the real solution, and give Israel alternatives and make sure that Palestinians finally stop having to suffer unendurable, horrible conditions. You don't cut off water and electricity and fuel to human beings. You just don't.
To that, I simply say amen. Couldn't disagree with Condi on any of that. Our remaining moments with her, celebrating Barack Obama's historic rise to the presidency, when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
This is getting good. Yeah, man. Tavis Smiley continues when we come forward.
If you're like me, 60 and retired, making ends meet, especially here at the supermarket and drugstore, is tough. I'm so blessed to have found benefitscheckup.org. It's a free and confidential website from the National Council on Aging that connected me to $1,200 a year in programs that help pay for food, medicine, utilities, and more. Maybe it can help you. benefitscheckup.org.
My daughter was diagnosed with a rare malignant rhabdoid tumor on the spine. They sent her straight to St. Jude. My hope was gone. But when you get there, everyone's like, hey, we're not going to give up. And when you see other people not giving up on your child, that makes all the difference in the world. When I found out I didn't have to pay, I was just grateful. They saved my baby's life.
Finding cures, saving children. Learn more at stjude.org.
Some people won't give you the real talk on drugs, but it's time we know the facts. Fentanyl is killing people. It's a powerful opioid, often made illegally and commonly mixed with illicit drugs. It can even be pressed into counterfeit pills that resemble prescription medications. Just 2 milligrams, about the size of a few grains of sand, can potentially be lethal. This isn't an ad to scare you, but it is an ad to make you think twice. Get the facts. Go to realdealonfentanyl.com. This message is brought to you by the Ad Council.
For the ones who get it done, the most important part is the one you need now. And the best partner is the one who can deliver. That's why millions of maintenance and repair pros trust Grainger, because we have professional-grade supplies for every industry, even hard-to-find products. And we have same-day pickup and next-day delivery on most orders. But most importantly, we have an unwavering commitment to help keep you up and running. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Here's to Prilosec OTC. Without Prilosec, I wouldn't be able to enjoy all this yummy holiday food. Speaking of, whoever made that apple pie, delicious. I just take 1 pill each morning and 0 heartburn all day. So cheers to Prilosec OTC. Ooh, are those jalapeno poppers?
Prilosec OTC prevents excess acid that can cause heartburn, so you can enjoy the holidays. 1 pill a day, 24 hours, 0 heartburn. It's possible while taking Prilosec OTC. Use as directed for 14 days to treat frequent heartburn, not for immediate relief.
My ride smells just right, just right, just right, just right.
Y'all gotta try that Febreze car.
Just right, just right, just right. Yeah. La 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 la. With up to 40 days of consistency. All over Febreze car clips right on your vent. You know my car's my happy place. Keep that smile on my face. When it smells just right, just right, just right. Yeah. Breathe happy Febreze. La 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 la.
More honesty than you can handle. More empowerment than you can imagine. You're tuned in to Tavis Smiley.
So much news today, Connie, we had to cover in this first hour. Not much time for this, but there'll be days ahead to unpack this. But in the 2.5 minutes I have left, your thoughts on what it means. This could have been a week of nostalgia for Barack Obama, but given what's all that's happening in the world, not a lot of that. But it has been 15 years since his historic election. Last word to you. What are your thoughts on that reflection?
Well, one of his speeches celebrating this 15 years told us why we need Barack Obama back. He's just so strategic and so smart. The first African-American president never thought I would live to see that day. When my dad died, he said it was all worth it because Barack Obama got into office. And, you know, there's just a symbolism. Now we're fighting the backlash to that because every time African-Americans make a stride forward, they're set back 10 strides. But you want to know something? He represents the fact that we have marched on till victory is won. We are marching on. And I think we ought to celebrate it. It didn't do everything we needed it to do, but can't say it wasn't a milestone, Tavis. It was a milestone.
No question about that. A milestone to be sure, and one worth celebrating. I've said consistently that I believe that elections of this magnitude ought to be not just about symbolism, but about substance as well. And I take your point. He didn't deliver in every aspect, and God knows I can't hide from this. I had my own critique of him. But if you're asking me whether or not it is worth celebrating, that he was elected, of course it is. I remember being on the anchor desk on the night that he won, sitting between Tom Brokaw and Brian Williams, who invited me to do analysis that night on NBC. And I'll never forget that night and the goosebumps I had and the tears that I shed when he was elected president of these United States, and to be on the anchor desk. And they were kind. Brian and Tom gave me first word. The minute that NBC called the election for Barack Obama, they allowed me, a son of slaves, to have the first word, and it was quite gracious of Brian and Tom Brokaw, and I'll never forget that night. It was a great night to celebrate, and we'll talk more about this in the coming days. It is worth looking back on his presidency 15 years later, and again, we'll do more of that as this program continues. For now, we thank our friend Connie Rice. Connie, brilliant as always. Great analysis. Good to have you on. We'll do it again. Have a great rest of the day.
You too, Tavis. Take care.
Good to have you on. More of Tavis Smiley when we come forward.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
Think isn't ruling out a plea deal. The